Hello, welcome to the Lessons of Vietnam show. My name is Bill Dixon, along with my co-host, Mr. Bob Matthews, the educator extraordinary, teacher of the year, and all that good stuff is back with us tonight after taking a little bit of an absence of breakout for the summer. These teachers, they're used to taking off for the summer and relaxing and so forth and so forth. We have a very special guest with us tonight. Speaking of teachers, we have with us Jim Bahm. Jim has been a fantastic teacher of the Lessons of Vietnam at Athens Drive High School for a bunch of years. Jim, about
I think I started in 1996.
1996.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
a long time.
1996. He started having the first lessons of Vietnam, and I believe this year he has three classes. One this semester and two the next semester.
That's right.
Great. He is a great teacher. The kids really get a lot out of his class. We have made some very famous trips to Washington, D.C. with the kids. Maybe if we get time tonight, we can talk about some of those trips. But we kind of careful with them because we don't want to scare any new teachers off. By the way, if you want to ask Jim a question, call in at 919-518-9773, or go to your computer and come on to Skype with Computers 2K Voice. And Skype us in with questions. Give us a call. Join in the show. This is your show. Just want to bring you up on a little bit of things. Today is August 27th, so if you're looking at this archives, we just came back from D.C. With a wall, and we went to the wall, took some pictures in the daytime, took some pictures at night. The wall was still very popular. Went to see the Iwo Jima Memorial, went to Arlington Cemetery, spent some time there. Took one of the tours, and if you get a chance to go to Arlington, be sure and take the tour. They do a good job of telling you what you're seeing and so forth. Right over from Audie Murphy is the gentleman who won more medals in Vietnam than anybody else. His grave site is there. But we took the tour, had a good time taking pictures in Arlington. We're working on it for the etchings and stones we're working on. Just want to tell you the next show, which is September 10th, will be our next show. Be sure and tune in. We're going to start a series called Working on Post-Traumatic Stress. If you've got post-traumatic stress, or you're an expert on post-traumatic stress, or want to know more about post-traumatic stress, be sure and tune in for the next series of shows. We're going to be starting it pretty soon. Hopefully the next show will start it. Also, September 6th, we'll be doing our normal first Saturday of the month POW MIA ceremony, which we've been doing for 27 years. NCBI has met there the first Saturday of the month at 12 o'clock. Come join us if you're in the area. If you're a member of an organization or individual, just come and be part of our calling of the names. If you'd like for your organization to be recognized and calling the names, let me know, or let Bob know when he comes on, or call in to the show tonight, and we'll pick a month that you can come in and do the names. We'd love to have you come in. We'd love even more for some of those who are missing to be recognized and found so that the family gets some closure. But tonight's show is basically on the Lessons of Vietnam course and how it's grown, how it's going and continually growing, and how great the teachers are that have taught the course started early on. Jim has been teaching the course, had great response. We've done several things at Athens. We've had the wall there. Like I said, we've been to several really exciting trips with the kids to Vietnam, not to Vietnam, but to the wall and to the Eden Center, which is right outside of Falls Church, which is when you get to Eden Center in the parking lot, it's basically like you're in Vietnam. It's a shopping mall. It's all Vietnamese. And it's like taking the kids to Vietnam when you go there, going to restaurants and eat. We found out, though, if you're going to take them there to eat, be sure you take them to eat before you let them go into the Vietnamese grocery store, because after that, it's hard to get them to eat sometimes. But I'm going to turn the show over to Bob now and let him talk with Jim and ask these in-depth questions. Again, call in at 919-518-9773. And in the meantime, I'll have show you some pictures of Vietnam today. right outside of Da Nang. There's a place called Sandy Beach Resort. They're really fantastic place. If you get a chance to go to Vietnam, you got to go stay at Sandy Beach. The food is magnificent, and I'm gonna let you read the words of art. And thank you.
Good evening, and welcome back to Lessons of Vietnam. My name is Bob Matthews, as Bill mentioned, and we're co-hosting the show. And as Bill mentioned, we have a very special guest tonight, Mr. Jim Bahm, who I consider maybe one of the best, if not the best, social studies teacher in Wake County schools. And Wake County schools has grown so much over the years. We have become kind of like a melting pot, if you will, from all over the country. Teachers coming here, and of course, you know, a lot are leaving. But Jim, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it.
It's good to see you again, man. But I wanted to ask you, first of all, if you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got here, and things like that.
Okay, well, I started teaching back in 1985 at a private school up in New Jersey. Taught there for 3 years, and then I was coaching baseball. Ended up coming down to North Carolina, going to school in North Carolina. Had a friend who was down here, and I ended up coming down here and spent some time with him. And I was actually going to get out of teaching. I was going to get into public relations because I had done some work with Babe Ruth baseball. And while I was there, I had a person ask me if I want to do some substituting in Johnston County. Mm-hmm. And I said, sure, keep busy. And I ended up subbing at Johnston County. Smithfield, okay. Selma Senior High School.
There you go, okay.
And I was there doing that, and the principal came up and said, would you be interested in teaching and coaching? And before you know it, I was back into it again. So, and then I spent 3 years there, and I wanted to get closer back to Raleigh, get to Raleigh, and a job came open at Wake County Schools, at Athens Drive High School. It was actually a part-time job, and I took it, and it went full-time in like a month, and that was in 1991, and so started teaching at Athens Drive in 1991. And the whole idea with the Vietnam class, when you guys got this started, I think a couple years earlier.
I did.
In Enloe. And my department chair was this really nice lady from Charleston, South Carolina, who you couldn't say no to her, and she came up to me and she said, "Jim, I want you to teach the Vietnam class." I says, "Yes, ma'am."
Well,
no, I mean, I knew a little bit about Vietnam, but I had read a few books. But and then I called you up.
You did.
I don't know if you remember, but I gave you a call one afternoon. And I said, "Hi," I introduced myself, and I said, "I'm not so sure about how to approach this class." And you said, "I'll be there in 30 minutes."
There you go.
And you came over, and then we got started on it.
Well, Jimmy, that's our game. Going to public relations. I think you made the right move. I'm being a little selfish on that. But when you said you came to school here, did you go to college here?
I went to I spent 2 years at Pembroke State University.
You played a little baseball,
And
didn't
I
you?
played baseball on a scholarship there for 2 years. I actually played baseball for 4 years. And honestly, baseball was something that was my main priority.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting into teaching and coaching.
Well, that's why I liked you right away, because you played baseball and you were the fan of the only team in Pennsylvania called the Pirates, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Or was that the other team?
No, wait a minute, Bob. I'm a big Philly fan.
Oh, that's right. Another team in Pennsylvania.
That's
I wasn't sure about that. I am now, though. Well, Jimmy, getting back to your background and coming into school, one of the problems I think that Wake County's had when you get teachers in is everybody's together from different parts of the world. They sit down, they start to share, and the profession we're both in is a copycat profession. You get a good teacher, your copy moves here, you get your own style going. And when you came in, I often refer to you and Russell Page and some of the other teachers as veterans of the Wake County, of the Vietnam course in Wake County. Do you remember when you first started, your first class?
teaching the Vietnam class?
Yes.
I remember I had a very small class. I think there were 13 or 14 kids. And I was a little nervous about it, honestly.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of plodding through it. But I want to make sure everybody knows and the viewers know that the main reason this class is so successful is because of you guys.
I've always said the vets make it.
The vets make it. You come in, everybody has a different story to tell. Now the stories are getting bigger as we get older.
They're getting better.
And they're getting better.
Well, Jimmy, the reason I asked that question is when you first come in, I remember like it was yesterday. You had 13 or 14 kids in the class. Do you know now, Jim Baum, starting the school year, this is the 20th year, the anniversary of starting lessons in Vietnam in Wake County schools, and you now have the most students in the whole county. You are the king of Vietnam.
Okay. You mean over that period of time?
Over right now.
Or right now? Oh, okay.
You have the most kids enrolled in the Vietnam curriculum in all 27 schools.
Oh, okay.
So Athens Drive is the leader.
It's getting bigger, too, because I added 4 or 5 more kids today.
Perfect.
Which is normal.
So, Jim, as you said before, you think the key to the course are the veterans coming in and so forth.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to mention, and you mentioned this before, is you've been able to give the students in Wake County an asset that most teachers don't use. Because most young kids in their life, they have 2 or 3 reservoirs of knowledge they draw on. Of course, their parents, their teachers, and their coaches, and so forth. And now they have the fourth one is the veterans community. And you have tapped that asset. And what I'm trying to get the other teachers to do in Wake County schools is to also use this.
Absolutely.
And I've used you as an example. And I've tried to talk the new administrator of Wake County. I think we've got her on board to have a workshop for all the Wake County schools to teach Vietnam, all the U.S. history teachers to do a major unit on Vietnam. And they'll all come together in one room for one day. Invite about 25 vets. Sit around like we did years ago when we started this.
I remember doing that at Enloe.
I do, because the reason it worked well then was because the vets came in, the teachers came in, and no one had an agenda.
Right.
We wouldn't let them leave for lunch, remember?
Mm-hmm.
If you let teachers leave for lunch, they don't come back.
They don't come back.
They don't come back. They go home. They get the car wash. Got to get a dentist appointment. Get my hair done. No. So we catered lunch. You couldn't leave all day.
I remember that very well.
And every teacher had a vet at the table. And honest to God, Jimmy, after that day, I knew we struck gold. And I figured after this that we would get better and better each year. You'd use your style. Lindy would lose her style. Link Page, all the names we mentioned. And they're still thought of to this day. Very precious people who took a story that nobody wanted to hear. But when I came home from Vietnam, I taught school in Pennsylvania, in a little town called Meadville, Pennsylvania. And I looked, the first thing I did was I walked in, turned the history book to the index, and turned to V for Vietnam. One line. And I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm a rookie teacher. So as years went on, this course developed. I met you guys, we came to Carolina. I met NCVVI, and we started. So, Jim, when you're teaching Vietnam to kids, everyone says kids have changed. Now, how long have you taught at Athens Drive?
It'll be 23 years in November.
23, so
23.
you're close to 30 years.
Well, yeah, I have Total 30 some years teaching, about 31 years teaching.
Very nice.
But 23 at Athens Drive High School.
And you've had several student teachers.
I've had a few over the years. But you talk about kids changing. I don't know. I don't. Once you get them in the classroom, and what changes are the stimuli around them, with
Sure.
the technology and all
I was
that.
going to say, I was asking that.
But the kids are still kids.
Sure.
And when you introduce a course like this, and you take the approach like I do, where I tell them up front, I'm not going to bore you by coming in here every day and lecturing about Vietnam.
Sure.
I'm going to bring people in who were there, and in different services and at different times, because everybody has a different story. And that's what's made this class so good and so popular.
Well, Jimmy, it's also your style, because a lot of kids are used to teachers, getting in front of the room at the podium and lecturing. They're gone.
Yeah.
They're either texting somebody, they're doing this, they're doing that. And I've noticed you still use a logbook technique,
Mm-hmm.
and you use first-person history. Mm-hmm. When you bring in these veterans, I'm sure you've got a whole long list of people you use on a semester basis.
Oh, I do. And just one thing, when I do talk, it's very interactive. The kids ask a lot of questions. Even like today, they started asking me questions about the draft, and so I think that's important. If you're going to lecture, you better do it the right way.
Oh, sure.
But getting back to your question about what was the kids?
Yeah.
Kids.
First-person history.
First-person history. They want to hear the stories and the interaction and what's it like in combat.
Sure.
I can't tell them that, but you guys can. You know what I mean? So, and being in combat is such a unique thing, really. You know what I mean? So, for somebody like myself, I don't know anything about being in combat. I can only assume, and you can't. No one knows how you would be in combat, but
No one knows.
and so you guys come in and you make it work. So, and you say my style, it's more or less.
You set the stage.
I'm pretty laid back about a lot of things.
I've come into some classrooms before where the teacher was pretty stiff, and the kids react to the teacher's style. You set the table nicely. The vets come in, they feel relaxed, and even the veterans for a long time, when we first started this course in Wake County and all over the country, they're not used to public speaking.
Right.
One of the biggest fears of American people, period, speaking in front of a group. So we almost have to teach the vets how to teach. And they ingrain their story in, and they're relaxed. When Bill Dixon and I were last year in St. Louis, we were telling the teachers that basically all of us, you're taught your whole life, whether it's high school, college, grad school, whatever, by people that know something secondary. Rarely do you go out and find first-person history.
First person.
So you have polished that gem. When you bring in someone like Dave Samuels, who flew helicopters in Vietnam, you can't be expected to talk with Dave. You take a back seat. But see, some teachers can't do that, Jim.
Yeah.
Some teachers have control of that classroom. They're very territorial. It's my classroom. I've
Well,
had trouble in Wake County with some of the teachers.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit overbearing, as you know. But
I don't think so.
I try to come in and set the stage. But I don't want to tolerate someone in social studies that will hand out worksheets
Yeah.
and give them a website when they have at their fingertips a Bill Dixon, a Joe Harsh, a Dave Samuels, and they won't make a simple phone call.
Yeah.
They make me mad.
I don't know why they're afraid to get on the phone and call. I actually try. I keep building up my speaker base more and more every year, and I don't know if you notice it, but I have certain people come in the very beginning, like you always introduce the class and you talk about what it means to people in Wake County, and then I'll bring Bill in, and Bill has a different spiel, and
About rice, you mean?
about rice. And he's funny, and he gets the kids' attention all the time, Bill. And there are some guys I'll bring at the end who are more philosophical, and someone like Del Vecchio, who you bring Del in, and he's going to
Where your boots?
Yeah, I mean, so, and I space them out, and I try to make it work that way.
Very interesting about the Vietnam class I've noticed, not just in your school, but all the schools. It seems like the kids, they come through the NOM class, and they hear the speakers come in from all walks of life. They take that button, other classes. They become extra curious. They seem to ask better questions.
Yeah.
Other teachers have said to me, they've taken that non-class, aren't they? Well, they're never late.
Yeah.
They can't wait to come in.
Yeah.
You have a nice thing for them. But, years ago, of course, one of the main concepts of the Vietnam course is the wall, how we use the wall. And the wall, as you well know, was built to heal a nation.
Right.
We've seen the movie. We've been there many times, you and I, with our classes, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But what I wanted to ask you was this. When we went to the wall the one time, we found so many questions by people that should know better. So when we put the course together and we add pages every year to the course, different chapters, it was written to teach a nation, which has been our slogan. And we've gone all over the country. And have you ever done this in your classroom, and maybe you are going to do it this year? Have you ever offered the students of your classroom to bring their parents to class?
I think over the years we've had a couple parents come in who wanted to sit in and listen to some speakers, and I've never really invited anyone, but they're welcome to come in. I've had a lot of parents, like at open house,
Yes.
say, "Gee, I'd really like to come in," and I said, "Well, you're welcome to come in anytime."
That might have some merit to it, because what I did one year is I sent home a letter, and sometimes you're not sure letters get home.
Mm-hmm.
You hope they get home.
Yeah.
I sent a letter home inviting them because years ago we started the course in '94. 20 years tonight. 20 years of the course. They lived through Nam. Most didn't serve in Nam. They were too young. But you had to be a little wary of the fact that their kids might be embarrassed with their parents in class.
Right.
You got to be careful there too. But all of a sudden, you'd see one or two sitting in class, coming. And one came every day. Barbara Abernathy.
Oh yeah.
Barbara came every day. I was going to throw a couple ideas out tonight, and I hope some of the Wake County teachers are watching, because we have a new director, as I mentioned, in Wake County Schools, and I've given her the website. I've asked her to watch tonight. I've asked her to send out the website to all the teachers teaching Vietnam, to watch the show tonight, to meet you, to meet me on the air, and call with questions.
Sure.
Because a lot of teachers are very confident, as they should be, but all of us can learn something every day.
Absolutely.
A better way to do this, a better way to do that. Because as Bill mentioned before about the technique of asking questions in a classroom, once you set the stage and you say, well, you can ask anything you want about Vietnam, about my service in Nam, my time in Nam, but I have the right to say no comment. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a couple that you know what they're going to ask.
Right.
How many people did you kill?
Right.
Did you do drugs? Did you go to houses of prostitution? All the off-color subjects. You can't shut the door on this.
Right.
You have to let the kids ask questions.
It's all part of the experience. I will tell you though, I spent about a month going over things, the history, the geography, the culture, with the students before you guys come in, and,
Sure.
and I tell them, ask appropriate questions. You know, what's appropriate, and they'll ask, well, what about drug use in Vietnam? And I said, well, you can ask those questions, and if they, and the same thing you just said, if they can say, I'd rather not answer that, or whatever.
You know, Jim, when you give the kids that leeway and you give them ownership in the class, it's their class. You're their teacher, but it's their class. And remember, several years ago, we started a toy with the idea of going to D.C., going a field trip to the wall. You remember your first trip?
Yeah. Like I said, we had that small class, and we went up there in November. It was kind of cold, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd been to Washington, D.C. when I was a kid, and I didn't really know where I was going, but we had several people with us. I think you and Al Ely was,
Sure.
Maybe Bill was with us on that trip. We let the kids out by the memorial, and I said, okay, just go and experience it, see what it's like. And when they came back, we had a meeting point where we met,
Sure.
and they were just like, can't believe it.
Unbelievable.
It's such an experience. For
Well, that's why I think all the vets, we talked about this at the meeting last night, you know they love you for what you've done, for the history of Vietnam, and how you've opened so many doors. How you've went to D.C. early, went to D.C. late, you piggybacked some trips, you took the kids, paid for things out of your pocket, paid for dinners, these kinds of things. And kids never forget this. And Jimmy, neither do the vets, because their story for many, many years was never told.
Right.
And when this class started, see, most of these guys were boys. They left as boys and they came back as men.
Right.
And when they came back from Vietnam, as we talk about in the classes a lot. The welcome home was not what you read about in the movies.
Right.
A lot of guys had great welcomes home. I speak for myself. I did. A lot did not. And the kids need to hear this. And they need to hear about what's called civilian responsibility. You didn't serve. You waited. They served for you. And the vets, when they come into the classroom, when they leave, I really do think, and Bill might want to back me up on this, I think every veteran over the 20 years that has spoken in your class and all the classes feel better about it. It's therapeutic for them.
It's very healing.
They come in, and there's 30 kids there that want to hear their story.
Well, you know, going back to the very beginning when we first started teaching, I had known about what you guys went through. I'm next generation down. I'm 10 years removed from the war, and I always tell everybody, look, I'm not a Vietnam vet. I want you to know that right from the very beginning. And one of the things I'm most grateful for in my life is that I never had to go to a war. Because if you think back, okay, you guys, it was Vietnam, it was Korea, World War II, World War I. So my dad was in World War II, my grandfather was in World War I. I had relatives that fought in the Civil War. And so the protocol was American males turn 18, they go to war. So I was going to school playing baseball and having a good time.
Sure.
Right? You guys, 10 years before that, were toiling in Vietnam. So I understood how when you came back, and it was a big adjustment for you. But I like to say also to people that you guys taught me one thing, and that was camaraderie.
Yes.
I couldn't believe how close you were with one another. And you guys pulled me into your group, and I became an associate member of the
Exactly.
NCVVI. And I had gotten married in 96, that summer. My wife and I got married in Hawaii. I was going to say Vietnam.
Got married in the triangle.
Yeah, got married in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And we came back, and I think Al said, can you stop over the house for something? He was living in Chapel Hill at the time, Al Ely. And so we stopped, and you had a big surprise party for me,
Sure.
my wife and I. That meant so much. And then even when my kids were born, you had a shower for my kids.
Sure. Remember that well.
And, you developed this friendship with you guys. And, I feel very loyal to you guys as, you feel loyal to me. And it's been a
both
great
ways.
18 years of friendship and camaraderie. And that's something that you just can't,
You can't just manufacture that.
no, you just can't manufacture that.
Well, Jimmy, you left your mark in the school system of Wake County. I know you are looking forward down the road to retirement one day, but your legacy's intact. And legacy's intact. And as I mentioned before, you've mentioned this to I think to your classes before, is most of the veterans in NCVVI did not know anybody in Vietnam. I never knew Bill
Right.
Dixon existed.
Right.
Joe Harsh. We met after the war. Now, most of us, I think I can say this, most of us have tried to keep in contact with men and women we served with. At least I have.
Mm-hmm.
I had 12 people that I met when I got back. I found 10 of them. Christmas cards, things like that. When a couple of them heard about the Bridge Back and things we're doing here in the schools, they send contributions.
Mm-hmm.
They know it means so much for teachers like you, a generation removed. It's just as easy to say, I got to get a haircut. I
Right.
can't teach the Vietnam course. But when you come to a seminar, you ask the question, then you carry the ball as far as you have. And then I think I'd like you to talk a little bit, if you could tonight, before I get to my six-pack of questions,
Uh-oh.
can you explain to the audience, and hopefully the audience are some of our teachers tonight, what is meant by the linkage program?
Okay, well, the linkage program initially was, at least how I interpreted it early on, was each student was able to have the name of a Vietnam veteran that they could connect with. And you have these journals, we used to call them link books, I still call them link books, and they write down everything so that when they're talking to the vets and their conversations, and they get all this information, they record it all in their journals or their link books. And so I think the linkage thing was that you were able to have your own personal into the war.
It is.
You could call, and you guys were so good, because I remember they would come in, hey, I'm going to have coffee with Bob Matthews tomorrow at Borders. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
Or Bill
I do.
Dixon's going to meet me,
For
and
lunch.
we're going to have for lunch, or we're going to have, and that means a lot to the kids.
Oh, it does.
you know, and we would double them up, and we'd have 2 or 3
Sure.
kids go, and they would meet the vets, and that was a big deal.
We met with the vets when we came up with this program, and it was not. I don't want to be facetious, but it was kind of the missing link, if you will. We needed something to give the kids something personal, because you know you teach 130 kids a day. All of a sudden, they have a Bill Dixon, a Joe Harsh, a Dave Samuels, and I told them to give the children their phone number. We didn't bother with emails then.
Right, there's
What
no email back
was.
then.
Well, I
Right.
am technical now, that much. But anyway, we say, well, give your home phone number, and you give me yours. And you tell your parents
Right.
when to meet your parents. Meet you for lunch. And the vets, this is one of Bill's ideas. He said, now, when you take the kids to lunch, you always buy. Don't let the kids buy. Don't try to buy.
Yeah.
You buy lunch, you buy coffee, you meet them, and then you guys were entrusted with questions. Think questions, critical thinking.
Right.
You say, like, what do you think of Jane Fonda? What do you think of Agent Orange? Bill mentioned the new thing coming out, not new, but under a great deal of study is the PTSD programs.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that, and then ask your link.
Right.
Then you imagine this over a cup of coffee or a Coke at McDonald's. You're talking about high school
Right.
with a Vietnam veteran. You're 18 years old. This guy's 44, 45, 50.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in his life. You're in his world.
You're in this world.
I
That's
mean,
right.
it is a chance of a lifetime. I get pumped up about this because when this thing started, it was like my baby. It's my baby. I combed its hair.
It's still your
I
baby.
combed its hair, and I said, now, look, we're going to do this and do that. And I met the guys in NCVVI who were like, they all should have been teachers. They loved this notoriety. They loved going in, and they took it to steps I never thought of. Went in, met the parents, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And all the guys you met over the years, you met the famous Carl Bimbo.
Carl Bimbo, yeah.
He came into your class. Great speaker.
You know, and you bring up Carl, but he has a different perspective
Yes, he
on
does.
the war, and he goes into things that a lot of other guys don't. You know, and
Which
I
is
think
good.
it's important,
It is.
right, to hear both sides of all the issues, and that's the beauty of the classes. And I tell them from the very beginning, I'm not going to give you my opinion of the war. I want you to develop your own opinion by listening to the guys come in, by reading whatever material I give them, or watching whatever videos we watch. And then at the end of the year, you should develop an opinion about things. You know, should we have been there? Should we not have been there? Did we win or did we not win? And then you'll make up your own mind. And that's the critical thinking component to
It
the
is.
class.
And that means so much because they will carry that home.
Yeah.
And I've had calls from parents at home and say, you're asking these questions like, what do you think of, one of the students asked me, one of your classes, I believe, said to me, how much, Mr. Matthews, do you hate the draft evaders? And I said, I don't hate them at all. I don't love them either. I said, but at that time period in history, and you have to get everything in its parameters, those men and women had a choice to make. The lottery wasn't out yet. You could serve, you could run, or you could hide.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us chose to serve. But those young men and women that went to Canada or Mexico or Sweden or underground, wherever they went, it must have been killing them, Jim.
Yeah.
Because then you love your country and you serve with pride
Right.
your whole life. But all of a sudden, you're faced with this decision and you're 18 years old and your parents are watching TV. If you'll recall, up in the corner, wasn't picture in picture, but it was a body count.
Right.
Daily body count. You're sitting there on the couch. You look over and there's your son, 18 years old. And you say to your wife, take some money out of the bank.
Mm.
He's going to Canada. Transfer yourself to their shoes. What do you tell your kids?
Right. Well, you know, one of the things I tell the kids is that I never had to register for the draft because Jimmy Carter was president and he did away with all that.
He
So
loved
there's a
Jimmy
small
Carter.
window there
Yeah, there was.
of people like myself who never had to register. Now everybody, of course, still has to register.
They do.
And you don't know if you're faced with that decision, if it's your own child, and you know by the late 60s, you know there's a lot of unpopular things going on, and
Big time.
and the media coverage of the war, for what it was worth. You know,
Yeah, it was big time.
you have to. You know, it would be an unbelievable decision. I mean, if you had a kid, I think I would have served if it came to me, you know, because I love my country. But knowing now some of the things that go on within the government, you know, the dynamics within government,
Sure.
you'd question it.
You know, there were so many things happening. You mentioned two things I want to talk about briefly is the media. We have such wonderful electronics today and massive communication, instant knowledge automatically. Something happens on the West Coast, it's on CNN that night. And the parents were spoon-fed Vietnam every night. Mm-hmm. And there were riots everywhere. Kent State happened. Tet happened in Vietnam. It looked like it was foolish to go to Nam.
Yeah.
And I sat in a group once years ago with draft evaders. And they were winning the argument. Vietnam was stupid. You went, you're a fool. Mm-hmm. We know you don't want to go to jail. Back and forth. A heated argument. And it left, nobody won.
Right.
Well, nobody is winning to this day. So my next question to you is, what part of the Vietnam class do you teach? Do you think you could upgrade, make it better?
Make it better?
Because we're looking for better ways every day.
Okay, let me think. I'm sure there's some things I need to change.
Because I know you've written 2 books.
Yeah.
So you're an accomplished author.
I'm an author. I don't know how accomplished I am. Well, you know, we actually do some writing in the class. That's something that we take a day and the kids write poetry. And as a matter of fact, over that 18-year period, I've got a big file on and I'm going to have them all published in some kind of a booklet before I finish.
Also.
No, not me. The kids are.
Very good.
I don't know. I'm always trying to get them to think more critically. Let them. I think it's difficult to motivate them to read books now.
Oh, sure.
And you know, I have a huge library of books on Vietnam, and
well, that's why I think the guys love coming into your classes so much and seeing your kids afterwards. Hey, Mr. Matthews,
yeah.
I was in Jim Baum's class. I saw a kid at Chick-fil-A the other day, but I bit my face off when he saw me. But you're going like this, and all of a sudden the kids are doing this. They're writing here. And one thing I thought was you challenge your students. I'm trying to get the other teachers to do this. Or you might sit down with your kids and say, look, let's use the transference. Let's take you to Vietnam. You go 25,000 miles from home, and you leave the home, maybe a wife, mom and dad, maybe a sister. Write a letter home, handwritten letter. Not, what's that thing called now? Facebook.
Facebook, or just email me.
Not Facebook or email. Write a letter home, a safe letter. Write it home. And they have that great video, letters from home.
Well, that's something we do. We'll take a day, and I'll say, okay, I want you to write a letter home to your parents or your girlfriend or somebody.
It's great.
And you're in Vietnam. You're 18 or 19 years old. Write that letter home. What are you going to tell them?
Sure.
You know? And that was one of the questions we used to use early on with the linkage program was when they were interviewing you guys, they would say, what was your first letter home about? Right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was always a staple question. And the answers were great because the kids, I never thought about that or whatever. But
you get the key word right there, thinking.
Thinking, yeah.
Because when you're that far from home, and you're told, write a letter home, but don't scare your parents, don't scare your wife. You write, a safe letter, a nice letter, and all of a sudden you're doing this like that, but you're writing a letter. Another skill is being used in the classroom, and when you send people that far from home, they start to appreciate things a little more, like a cold glass of water.
Right. Simple things.
Simple things is right.
And those are some of the things that, like, when you guys come in and talk about that stuff, that gets the kids thinking, gee, I didn't think about the water.
Hot water. Hot shower.
Or taking a shower, and it's cold because the water's 90 degrees and it's like 110 degrees, and a 90-degree shower feels cold on you. Or at night, sometimes you guys would say you needed blankets because it would pick up.
Oh, yeah. Except Dixon, he's a polar bear. But, mission accomplished when you get your students, and I hope the teachers tonight, all 12 of you in Wake County schools, and hopefully more, will watch this broadcast, and get out one of these, please. Get out a tablet and a pen or a pencil, and write some things down. Then go back to your classroom. The kids will think you're a genius. Go back and say, look, I got an idea. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Now, through you, and teachers like you, we have pioneered some techniques that are used nationwide. I mean, Wake County Schools is noted nationwide for having the best thorough curriculum on Vietnam in the world. And it's quite an honor that we really embrace. And I talked to some of them before, and usually when you try this, Jim, you're kind of You're a little bit of a rebel, which I like. You try new things. You want to see a movie in its entirety. Like, say you want to see Platoon. You can't see Platoon in like 3 bites. Half the class have appointments. They got dance appointment. They got practices. So one of our guys said one day, it might have been Del Vecchio. Not sure I'm going to give the credit for on this one. But he said, Bob, why don't you go into the classroom and take an in-house field trip? Like, get a sub and keep your Vietnam kids all day. All day. Show Platoon from start to finish. Bring refreshments. Bring in speakers. They'll see a key movie of Vietnam. You'll have vets in the class to interpret moments. You've got the pause button. You've got this. You've got that. So you take a 2.5-hour movie and you take a 3-hour session with it. They've learned so much from that. I've used it 100 times.
Yeah.
Faculty hated it.
Yeah, I could see there's some issues. Some people
They say we can't do that. I say,
well,
well, we could try it.
yeah.
And this and that, back and forth. Everything doesn't work in every school.
Right.
Now, when we talked about using things that worked better in the past, I'm going to start with my 6-pack of questions.
Here we go.
The first one is this, Jimmy Baum. Bill Dixon alluded to the fact that you were head of the most infamous field trip in the history of Wake County schools. Now, for our lovely audience tonight, listening to field trips, I want to encourage you, teachers, to take your students to D.C., not just to the wall, but to the wall. See everything there and take some days off of school. We can show you how to do it. It works. Now, Jim has the good and the bad and the ugly. So, Jim, would you mind?
Well, the interesting thing about that was we had gone to Washington, D.C., I don't know how many times, and everything was just smooth.
At least 6.
Yeah, 6 or 7 times, and everything went perfectly smooth. And then this one time, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
The ceiling fell down, everything.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. This is a great story.
I have to jog my memory a little bit.
I'll help you.
Okay. The bus got stuck. We had a bus driver who didn't have a proper license.
He didn't have a license.
He was speeding on the way down there.
Yes, he was.
We ended up. He had I guess he had a revoked license or something like that. We got stuck on a speed bump at Falls River. We went to dinner at the Vietnamese restaurant. I think the restaurant stiffed us for about $80 or something like that.
It was bad. So,
one of the kids got sick. I don't know whether it was food poisoning. On the way back, and this is where things really got a little bit. We took a wrong turn.
By the Pentagon.
This was right after 9/11.
Yes, it was.
And so we took a wrong turn past the Iwo Jima Memorial down toward the Pentagon. And as soon as we did, we were met by flashing lights, and they stopped the bus and wanted to know what was going on, where were we going, and do you have a license? And, well, I don't have a license. What do you mean you don't have a license? So, and then one of the kids had a laser pointer, was pointing out the window, and they were pretty. I remember you got off the bus and you had to work some magic. But we also had kids got stuck on the elevator.
Yes.
And the firemen had to come in, and they were going to use their axes to chop up the elevator. There were so many things. I had to write a check out of my pocket.
You were getting older by the day. I remember that.
I mean,
you write a check?
I had to write a check to have the bus towed or something, right?
But they had to get a tow truck.
I had to pull it off the hill.
He was stuck on the road.
Yeah.
Had to pull him off and lift him up. You wrote a check. Joe Harsh dug in his pocket, got some money.
He had some money.
It was one of those nights where you all wanted to see a pillow. And then you met Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Oh, you mean Adrian Cronauer. And he was late that day. Bill gave him a hard time. I remember.
He was late, and Mr. Dixon said,
what are you doing? Why are you late?
We were at the Holiday Inn bar, which was closed on Sunday. Had 75 kids with us. So we called Adrian to come over and talk to the kids because they had just seen the movie Good Morning Vietnam. So Adrian called back and says, I'm at the wrong Holiday Inn. And Mr. Dixon, in his diplomatic style, says, we'll get to the right one. Click. Yeah. Pretty soon Adrian comes in. 90 minutes of Good Morning Vietnam. So the trip started terrible.
And there was something else going on next door in that hotel because they had all these look like special forces guys walking around, and everybody's like, "What's going on over there?" It was
and all the kids on cell
so
phones.
many things that were just so strange about that trip.
It was cursed.
Cursed.
So my question,
cursed trip.
my question, Jim, is the teachers watching now. What I'm going to try to ask them to do at our seminar this fall is to go and reinstate the trips to D.C. because they set the groundwork for the course. One time we went to Channel 5. David Crabtree, bless his heart. He helped me early on the course, and he said, "What do you want?" I said, "We're going to rub for Wake County. I'm going to ask everybody that wants to call the school and leave a name, on the wall." I took cards like this, and I put like James Pentland, line 40 East, or panel 40 East, line 28, their name on it. I gave the cards to each kid. They went to the wall with a purpose. They rubbed 2. They put them in their pocket. They went back to Wake County and delivered them to the door. Knocked on the door. They come out and said, "I'm from Enlow High School. I'm from Millbrook High School. Here's your rubbing, and here's an extra one. So when your company comes and they see it, they'll say, 'Well, I wish I had one of them.' You'll go, 'You do now.'" And it worked. We rubbed 1,500 names. And the teachers said that cemented them with those kids. They didn't have a discipline problem the rest of the year. What do you think?
Yeah, you hook them in.
You hook them in. You bring them in.
That's an invaluable experience.
What do you think about reinstating the field trips? I know you're getting scared now.
I don't know if I'm scared. There's a lot of logistical stuff nowadays running a trip to Washington, D.C. The classes have gotten so big.
Yes.
We first started going up there, we had 15, 16 kids.
Sure. Double
and then
up.
we would double up with,
Sure.
Your classes and so forth. I think Links maybe or something, Link Page.
Link
from Broughton. So the numbers, kind of hamper our ability to get it going. And there's so many different legalities and going up there after 9/11. 9/11 changed a lot of that,
9/11 changed the world.
And I was hesitant to go up there right after 9/11, but it was important. And
It was.
so I'm not saying we couldn't do it, and I agree with you that those trips were really invaluable. The kids, it really does hook them in. They become totally ingrained in the class.
Yes.
It's part of them, and
It becomes theirs.
yeah.
They can tell all their buddies
Right.
and stuff.
And having you guys with us,
Sure.
and going to the wall together is huge.
So, Jim, when and if we have the seminar, and we'll ask you to run point for us. See, you're the veteran teacher. I'm the retired teacher. You're the guy still on the front line. And you'll say, "Look, I'm Jim Baum from Athens Drive. This is the way you should do the trip." Will you run point for us?
You mean on the trip?
At
the seminar? Absolutely.
I thought so. Very nice. I knew if I boxed you in, you'd do that tonight.
Well, I would do it anyway. You know that.
Mr. Dixon, do you have any questions?
Well, we mentioned a while ago poems and so forth. I still have Amber Baylog's, who was my link. When she went to the wall for the first time, she wrote a beautiful poem about
Freedom
freedom.
is not free.
Yes, and I still have that poem, and
That's a classic.
it's I have in some of those links I have kept up with over the years, and it's very special to the vets, and I hope it's special to the kids because they have gone through the effort to reach out after they left school. And
I haven't kept up with Amber. That was 1997 because that's a poem that I read in class, and I still have the date on there, 1997.
She is a legend.
That was a very poignant moment.
It was.
Remember when she was reading that at the wall?
that was the first time she'd ever been to the wall, and was very moved.
And she had a crowd of vets around her.
She did. That was wonderful.
And she was crying. It was.
We've got to find her again. We've got to find her.
We should try to find her.
We should try to find her. I remember the one time when I first
maybe if she's watching this tonight.
Maybe she is. Well, I went in with the idea of a trip. The principal said, "Okay, what you can do, I like the idea," because he was a Vietnam vet. He said, "I like the idea, but you can't spend the night. You have to go up and come back the same day." I said to the kids, "Okay." I said, "We're going to make this work. We have to make it work. We leave at 3 in the morning from Enlow High School." Parents hated me. They had to bring their kids here at 2:30, drop them off. We got 4 vans, drove to D.C., went up, spent the day, drove back. Nobody was allowed to miss school the next day. Everybody was there 100% attendance. We pulled the trip off, didn't spend the night. It eventually matriculated into 2 or 3 nights in D.C., which may be why we sold the trip.
Yeah, I think we did 2 nights whenever we would go up on a Friday.
It was great.
Come back on Sunday, I think.
So we'll think about that. Now, Jimmy, we have about 9 minutes left. Mr. Dixon.
Jim, as you know, we travel around different schools. We'll be going to Boston to the social studies conference there to present to teachers. What advice would you give teachers who are thinking about possibility of teaching a course on Vietnam, not necessarily locally, but let's just say maybe in Boston or someplace else? What kind of advice would you give a teacher who is considering it or considering talking to their administrating people about starting a course or teaching a course on Vietnam?
Well, again, I think you have to tap into the community.
Yep.
I think that'd be the first step I would do. I would see what local Vietnam chapter groups there are, and then meet with them, and then say, would you be willing to come in? And I'm sure they would be receptive to that idea, and just start bringing a few of them in, and that would be the first step. And I think, like Bob said, this is a class you don't need to go in there like you just relax and let it go a little bit. And I went 12 years of Catholic school. If people ask me, how did you learn how to teach? I said, because I went to Catholic school. I know not what to do.
I got you. Jimmy, when Bill mentioned that question, it leads into my six-pack of questions.
Okay.
As the teachers watch, they need what I call high water marks. They need ways to teach. They see a guy like you who came as a teacher years ago at Athens Drive and take this the right way, has become a legend. They talk about Jim Bahm at Athens Drive. Everybody knows you. The Vietnam guy. Yes. Best class in the school. Yes. So here are my questions, Jim. For these teachers listening, they will have to rely on the cinema a bit. What would you say is the best movie put out on the Vietnam story?
I have my opinion about that, and I don't know whether it's because it's the most interesting movie or whether it's the most informative movie, but I would say We Were Soldiers.
Very nice.
There's a lot of things I show, and I show clips. What's funny about that question is when I first started watching movies on Vietnam, like Apocalypse Now and The Deer Hunter, those were great movies. But then once I started talking to you guys and then learning, because I learned a lot of what I learned about Vietnam is from you guys.
Sure.
And I say, that's not very accurate, or that could never happen.
Right.
But I think with We Were Soldiers, using Hal Moore and Joe Galloway, the guys who were there as consultants on that film, and Mel Gibson did a great job of putting that all together. And I think that's probably the best movie.
And on a side note, great move getting Joe Galloway in your classroom. That was a great move last year. Mr. Galloway, who's a legend in his own right, come in to speak. Well, Jimmy, then, as you said, a lot of the kids don't read today, but some of them read excerpts.
Yeah.
What would you say a recommended reading list for these teachers to give them enough background would be the best book on Vietnam?
I think the best book it's the easiest read, and it really kind of hooks you in, is The Things They Carried.
Yes.
By Tim O'Brien.
Tim O'Brien.
Tim O'Brien was a Vietnam vet, I guess, and he some of the stuff's fictitious, but he pulled together things that he saw in Vietnam, and it's a very interesting, fascinating read. Dispatches was a good book.
Dispatches is great, by Michael Hart.
Michael Hart.
Yes.
The first two books I read about Vietnam, I read 13th Valley by John Del Vecchio.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that. It's a great book, but I don't think you would hook somebody in with that. But there was one called Nam, Mark Baker.
Sure.
But if I had to say one, I'd say Tim O'Brien's book.
And when you start thinking about his title, The Things They Carried, he meant equipment, but not only equipment.
Yeah.
You carry a lot of things right here. They carried some things home. Now, Jimmy, your next question is, of all the classes you've taught, what would you say was the best question?
Ooh.
What did your kids ever ask?
Bob, that's a tough question.
I'm known for tough questions.
Mm-hmm. The toughest question. I think when you start talking about combat questions, and I can't say a specific question, but questions like, how do you think you would do in this situation? If you were in a combat situation, how would you react? And the truth is that you don't know how to answer that question because you don't know how you would react in a combat situation. What if you, I think when Dave Samuels, he told that story about the, and I don't know all the details to it, but he kept something with him for a long time. The diary of the Vietnam soldier. Was it Viet Cong or NVA soldier? I don't know how I would react in a situation where you have to, it's your life or somebody else's life.
When you prep your students like you do, and they come in, they got a couple questions there. It kind of breaks the ice both ways.
Yeah.
Remember, a student asked me a question once. He goes, "What was your best day in Vietnam? And your worst day?" I said they were the same day. The day I left. It was the best day and the worst day, because I knew we were leaving with a job not done.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids asked the questions that we discuss them in our meetings. And most of our guys can't wait to speak to the classes. We talked last night about it. We're getting them all fired up again. So you'll have a lot of requests at Athens Drive with 3 classes.
Yeah. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that we have next semester a first period class that starts at 7:25.
Bring the coffee.
So I'll provide the coffee if you guys provide the,
I like that.
The testimony.
The coffee's on. Well, Jimmy, my last question tonight is there's been a lot of actors, TV, movie, and all that have tried to portray parts of Vietnam. Who would you say is the single actor, man or woman, that played the best role in a Vietnam movie?
I don't know. I'm going to go with, and you guys might not agree with it, but Mel Gibson again. And
I like that.
We Were Soldiers.
I like that.
And it's not just the combat, but remember the scenes with his family?
Oh, yes.
Those were such moving scenes.
They were.
When he had to kiss his children and his wife and walk out, it's like, woo.
Well, it was right.
Wow.
Wow.
I wasn't there, and I started to get emotional.
You were there that night.
But he captures those moments.
Yes. And that's where I think you hope the kids, is they're going to go out on their own. They're going to go home and see their buddies. They're going to go back, talk to their parents. As I told the kids one day in class, I said, when you go home tonight, after Jim Baum's class, you won't say, what'd you do in school today? They won't say nothing. Hopefully they sit at the kitchen table. And Dad will say, or Mom, what'd you guys do in school today? And they'll go, sit down. We had a speaker come in. And their voice gets lower. And pretty soon, the parents are like leaning in like this. Mm-hmm. And they're going, well, I wish I had a class like that. You'll get a phone call. And I hope that the teachers listening tonight know how passionate myself, Jim Baum, Bill Dixon, Amnon, all of us that are doing this with Lessons of Vietnam. It's a story that needs to be told, and you need to listen to it. And I really appreciate being on the show tonight and kicking off the school year, 20th anniversary of the Love class.
And I want to thank you guys and the Vietnam vets who, not only for your service, but for your service to the kids in our community. And you guys are the ones who make it work. And thank you.
Well, Jimmy,
thank you for allowing me to come here tonight.
It's something we love to do, and I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, Bob.
And kicking off our anniversary course.
All right.
No one better
I'm
than
glad
you.
to do it.
No one better than you.
Thank you.
And
it only works, Jim, because of us and the teachers. It doesn't work without good teachers who are willing to turn the class over to some strange people to come in and talk.
And I thank you very much for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as Bill Dixon mentioned earlier, we're starting a series next week, 50-year anniversary of Vietnam. We're all getting older. I don't know if we're getting smarter, but we're getting older. Agent Orange, PTSD, think about it. Stay tuned. Have a good evening. Enjoy your weekend. Good night.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. That VidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.